What is up? What's good? What's going on? Hope you're having a good day. We'll talk about my my APU repair.
Keep right to stay on I-44 East.
While I'm driving, because if I don't do it while I'm driving, then I'll do it when I get home, and it's just going to be me standing in front of the camera or sitting in front of the camera. And I figured you'd rather see some driving footage. I'm in my personal vehicle right now, not the truck. So I suspected you'd rather see something like this than my pretty face for the duration of the video. So, just a second here. Wasn't sure if Crete was going to force his way over in front of me or what was going to happen right there. Crete, you need to get over three more lanes. You're going to want to be in that far right lane in the next 2 to 3 miles. Yeah, Crete just jumped 3 lanes behind me. So, I just got out of the shop, and let's talk about how much money I just spent. My shop bill was about $605, and that was mainly just for labor cost. There were also some parts cost in there, but very minor part costs. The major part that they replaced, I purchased directly from the dealer, and that was a starter. So, let me go over the total amount of money I spent, and then I'll explain what happened. So, it was, I paid, if I remember correctly,
in half a mile, keep left to stay on I-44 East.
$307 for a starter, directly from the dealer. $605 for labor and minor part cost from the shop. And then a roughly $350.
Keep left to stay on I-44 East.
For headlight assemblies and LED lights.
Continue on I-44 East for 1
I
mile.
don't know why the fuck people pass me and they cut me off and slam on the brakes. Fucking idiots. But, that comes out to a total of somewhere in the area of $1,200 to $1,300 in total part and labor costs that I spent. Yeah, just go ahead and just drift across 2 fucking lanes. Yeah, that's how I do it. Just go straight.
In half a mile, keep left to continue on Oklahoma 3 West.
Jesus, man. This is what happens when you drive with space in front of you, is people...
Keep left to continue on Oklahoma 3 West. Continue on Oklahoma 3 West for 1.5 miles.
Yeah, about somewhere in the area of $1,200 to $1,300 in parts and labor. So let's talk about what I had done. I had my headlight assemblies replaced with some aftermarket headlights, and I swapped out the halogen bulbs that came with those headlights, and I replaced them with LEDs. So now I have new headlight assemblies with LED lights. And what else? There were no issues with the installation of that stuff. That went pretty well. I installed the LEDs myself. I just paid the shop to put the actual headlight assemblies in. Because it's kind of a 2-person job, you have to hold the light in place while you bolt it in. Now, I could probably do it myself, but I know this shop, and I know that they're not going to charge me.
In a quarter mile, take the Oklahoma 3A exit toward Northwest 63rd Street Baptist Medical Center.
It's only going to take them like 5 or 10 minutes to do the headlights. They won't even charge me the 5 or 10 minutes of labor to do it. So,
take the Oklahoma 3 exit.
what else did we do? I think everything else. Well, okay, yeah. One other thing before we get to the APU stuff. I also had them check the free.
In 1,000 feet, use the left lane to keep left at the fork and follow signs for Oklahoma 3 West.
Excuse me.
Use the left lane to keep left at the fork, then turn left onto Oklahoma 3A West.
I had them check the Freon in.
Turn left onto Oklahoma 3A West Northwest Expressway. Continue on Northwest Expressway for 4 miles.
I had them check the Freon in my truck and the APU. And then the rest of the stuff was all APU repair stuff, I think. So what did I have them do on the APU? Okay, I had an issue where the APU was not starting. It was making a whining noise when I tried to start it. And I was getting a lot of voltage issues whenever the air conditioner was running. I would get under voltage errors and stuff like that, and the air conditioner would just turn on and off really quick. And I still had an ongoing oil leak that I've had it in the shop probably 10 to 15 times, multiple times at the dealer and multiple times at Big Rig Product, this shop that I was just at. I think the oil leak had been going on since October. And I told him, you know, just take a look at it, see if you can find the source of it. Again, you know, look at it again. So he went in and he tried spinning the alternator and the generator and all that stuff to see if anything was seized up. And nothing was seized up. So he's like, well, go ahead and try and start it. And I went in and I tried to start it, and it made that really loud whining noise, and nothing happened. And he said, is that the noise it's been making? And I said, yeah, that's exactly what it's been doing. And he said, that's the starter. And I said, well, awesome. I'm just glad it's not the damn generator, because that generator is a $2,000 part. And if it was the generator that went out, then I probably wouldn't have repaired the APU. I probably would have just stopped using the APU, because it'd just be too expensive to repair. I wouldn't, you know, want to dump that much more money into it. But, so I was happy that it was the starter. And he was like, yeah, well, that's not actually a good thing, because it's going to cost a lot in labor, because it's a pain in the ass part to get to, especially with the way your APU is installed. So I was like, well, it's better than replacing the damn generator. So he went ahead and removed the starter, and it just so happens that, okay, so I had a head gasket blowout or crack or something on my last APU engine, and I had the entire engine replaced last year. And I had them pull off the parts from my old engine, the starter, the alternator, the water pump, stuff like that, and I kept it all in a box. So I had a spare starter, and it was a pain in the ass for him to remove the starter. And I asked him, you know, is there any way that we can test the starter before we install it to make sure that my used starter actually works without issue? Because I don't want to, I don't want you to have to spend another 2 or 3 hours installing this just to find out it doesn't work, and then you got to spend another 2 or 3 hours uninstalling it, and then another 2 or 3 hours installing the next one. So he said, no, there's not really any way to test it. He said, well, we could hook it up to a battery and just see if it spins. So that's what he did. He hooked it up to a battery, and it spun. Like, it worked. And then he installed it, And when he installed it, yes, it started the engine and everything worked great. The only problem was whenever I turned the APU off, what the fuck? That construction vehicle just started backing into traffic. Hold up, we have some dumbass in a pickup truck. Weaving through traffic like a jackass. Now he's tailgating the shit out of me, trying to intimidate me into going faster. Whenever the APU was turned off, it was making like this, I don't know how to describe it. It was, the starter was still running. And it wasn't starting the engine, but it was making noise and it was running. And he had to go and disconnect the power cable to get it to stop. He said that it was causing the electric line to overheat, whatever the starter was doing. So I said, is it like an electrical connection issue? And he said, no, that starter's bad. He said, I've triple checked the wiring. The starter's bad. And I was like, damn. So by this time, it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he didn't have time to uninstall and reinstall another starter. Plus, I had to go to the dealer and buy a new one. So I ran across town real quick and bought a new starter before the dealership closed so that he would have the starter first thing in the morning at 7 a.m. when he got there. And one of the shop people, the shop manager, actually agreed to stay late so that I could bring the part back over to these guys by 5 p.m. And I made it back to the shop at 5:20 and gave them the starter. And then I came back at about 11 a.m. this morning.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto North Rockwell Avenue.
And they'd already had it installed, and they'd been testing the APU for a couple of hours for oil leaks. So now let's talk about the oil leak. So the starter issue got resolved by installing a new starter. The oil leak...
Turn right onto North Rockwell Avenue.
While he was replacing the starter the first time, he broke an electric connection that was going to an oil...
Continue on North Rockwell Avenue for 1 mile.
So he had to I don't know, he had to do something to fix that electrical connection with the oil pressure sensor. And he when he started looking at it, he noticed it was covered in oil. And I said, do you think that might be the source of the oil leak? Because I was standing there next to him all day yesterday. I was with him and, handing him parts and helping him out as much as I could all day yesterday while he was doing the work. So whenever he saw that and he broke that off and everything, he told me there was oil all back there. He went ahead and removed the oil pressure sensor, and it was just crusted over in oil. And he said that might be the cause of the oil leak. And he said, I can, fix the electrical connection, and I can use Teflon tape to try to get it to where it won't leak anymore. And I said, why in the hell would we do that? It looks like a cheap part. Why don't we just replace it? I said, how much is it? And he said, I would guess probably about $30. And I said, well, put a damn new one in. Don't, jerry-rig this one. And so they sent out their part guy and got a new one. and installed that yesterday. But we couldn't run the engine and test to see if that fixed the oil leak until they got...
In a quarter mile, turn left onto Skylark Lane.
So, he cleaned the engine off yesterday. He sprayed it with degreaser, and then...
take the next left onto Skylark Lane.
To get all the oil off of it, to make it easier to look for an oil leak. And then today, after
in a quarter mile, your destination will be on the right.
He ran it for, I think he told me he ran it for about an hour with the covers off and didn't see an oil leak. And then he put the covers on. Then he put the covers on and let the engine continue running. And it ran for another hour or two after that. And he had the air conditioner going and everything. And then we took the bottom cover off of it to check for oil leaks again after it had been running all that time. And there was actually quite a bit of oil.
Your destination is on the right.
There was actually quite a bit of oil on the bottom cover. I have to take my driveway at an angle, otherwise my front bumper will rip off. It's a really steep driveway. So, we'll wrap this video up while I'm still in the car. What was I saying? Yeah, it was covered in oil. So there's a top cover and a bottom cover for the APU, and they're real easy to remove. They just have little hand screws on them, and they're for changing oil and stuff like that. To do real maintenance and repairs on it, you have to remove the full covers. So we just removed the bottom cover that's for draining oil and stuff. And the inside covers have this foam on them on the inside to dampen noise. And it might also be for insulation, I'm not sure. But that foam we cleaned that foam off with degreaser the day before. Whenever he cleaned off the engine, we cleaned off that bottom cover because it was just covered in oil. And when we took it off to check to see if it was leaking oil, because I told him, I said, it takes a while for that bottom cover to get soaked enough in oil that it starts leaking oil out the bottom. So let's take the bottom cover off to see if it's actually leaking oil or not. And we took the bottom cover off, and it had a lot of oil on it. And then he looked at the engine itself, and he couldn't find oil leaking anywhere on the engine. And he said maybe all of that oil on the bottom cover was just from all of the foam on the inside of the engine leaking oil. Because, you know, if you have a basic understanding of, you know, how shit works, you know that when things get cold, they move slower. When they get hot, they move faster. That's the reason we wash things with hot water, is because things thin out and move faster whenever they're hot. So whenever the engine's running, it heats up that oil that's soaked into all the foam on the inside covers, and it'll start, the oil, whenever it gets hot, it'll thin out and it'll start dripping and running. So he said that he thinks that's all that oil was on the bottom cover, was from the inside covers. We went and washed it off again with degreaser and let the engine run without the bottom cover on for probably another 30 minutes to an hour to see if it leaked any oil onto the ground, and it did not leak any oil onto the ground. So hopefully the oil leak is now fixed, and it's kind of like really lucky that the starter went out. Otherwise, we probably never would have found the cause of the oil leak that's been going on for months, because that oil pressure sensor, you can't see it unless you remove the starter. It's like a really hard part to get to. And I don't think there's any way to visually inspect it. He said, like, he told me that that oil pressure sensor is so hard to get to that he said he's working on another carrier in another bay in the shop, another carrier APU, and he said that one is not hard to get to like mine. It's installed on the frame behind the cab, so it's just wide open, easy to access. Where mine is underneath the side of the truck, and you can't access it from the top. You can only access it from the front. You can't, or the front or the bottom. You can't access it from the top or the sides. The other one, it has full access from the top, and he said he can't get to or see the oil pressure sensor, even with full access to it. He would have to remove the starter to be able to visually inspect the oil pressure sensor on that other unit. So it's just like really lucky that the starter failed. Otherwise, I probably never ever would have found the cause of the oil leak on this APU. So hopefully the oil leak is fixed now. And everything else appears to be working. I turned the inverter on and turned the air conditioner up to high and tried to use as much power as I could. The only problem is I don't have my computer or anything in the truck, so I wasn't able to like use a ton of power. I guess, man, I should have plugged the microwave in and turned the microwave on for like a minute to see if I got any undervoltage errors with the microwave running and the air conditioner going at the same time. So I should have done that, but I didn't. But I didn't get any errors. He said the Freon levels, he didn't have to add Freon to anything. He said the Freon levels were good in both the truck and the APU. So all we did was install headlights, replace the starter on the APU, and then replace the oil pressure sensor. Two reasons we replaced it. One, because he broke it whenever he was replacing the starter, and two, because it was most likely the cause of my oil leaks. So I think we're good to go. I am going to start looking for a load to leave the house on now. I'm probably not going to want to leave the house until Monday or Tuesday next week. These last couple of days have been very draining on me because, like I said, I was at the shop all day yesterday. I didn't drop the truck off and then come back home. I was at the shop I left my house I woke up at 4 a.m. Well, I'd actually been awake since noon. And I stayed up all day, all night, took a shower at 4 a.m., drove down to the shop at 5 a.m., or left my house at 5 a.m., got to the shop about 5:30, and then I was at the shop standing next to Trey, watching him work on it, holding a light for him, handing him tools, trying to stay out of his way, but also trying to help and also watch what was going on, all day long until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I drove across town in really nasty traffic to the opposite side of town and got that starter from the dealer. And then I drove back across town during rush hour in even worse traffic and dropped the part off at Big Rig. And then I drove back to my house during rush hour And then when I got home, I stayed up for a couple hours and then went to sleep. And then when I woke up today, I hopped in the shower and drove straight back down to the shop. And I was at the shop for 2 or 3 hours today. It's about 2 hours that I was at the shop. And then once we got all done there, then I just drove back home. And that's where I'm at right now. So the last couple of days have been very taxing on me. And I need a couple of days of recuperation. But I am going to start looking for a load to leave the house on now. Now that the truck is good to go. I didn't want to look for a load before now because I had no idea like how long I was going to be down. Because if they found an issue with a part that wasn't in stock and they had to get it shipped in, I might have had to wait a week for a part. So I didn't want to book a load whenever I had my truck in the shop and I didn't know when it was going to be out of the shop. So we're good to go now. Everything's ready to go. Basically all I have to do to hit the road right now is do a final load of laundry and whatever food I want to take on the truck. I need to do a grocery delivery and then cook food if I plan on. I don't know if I'm going to cook food to take on the truck this time. I most likely will. But basically just I need to do a grocery delivery of whatever food I want to take on the truck, cook food, and do a last load of laundry. I've already washed my bedding material and put my bedding material is back in the truck, the clean bedding material. My new mattress, I took my old mattress out, it's in the house, and I put my new mattress in the truck. And I put pretty much everything else in the truck that I bought. And I finally got around to organizing my side box. So that little storage space underneath the bunk that you pop open the door on the outside of the truck, where I keep my tire thumper and a whole bunch of all my tools and stuff like that. Basically, since I've gotten the truck, all I've done is just like throw all my shit in there. And I've been meaning to get storage containers and organize shit in there. And all right, it's been 10 minutes. My garage is telling me it wants to shut the door. So I guess I better turn the car off since the garage door is shutting. So while we were sitting there letting the APU run and check for the oil leak, I went ahead and I'd already purchased little plastic storage bins to organize it. And I went ahead and pulled everything out of my side compartment, got some cleaner and some paper towels and wiped off the bottom, and then organized everything in a couple of containers and then put them back in. So I got some stuff accomplished today while we were waiting on all that stuff to get done. So yeah, I don't know when I'm going to leave the house. Most likely it's going to be somewhere around Monday. But if there's like some really amazing load that picks up tomorrow, I might leave as early as tomorrow. So once I get out of the car, I'm going to go and hop on the computer and start looking for loads. I might do a load board video, so we'll see. I'm going to end this video now, and I might go start making a load board video here in a second. So thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.